Spoilers for Beyond the Gates on April 2nd reveal that the point likely drawing the most attention is the confrontation between Tomas and Haley. And when it comes to the person who must make a choice, who else could it be but Bill? Beyond that, there are also two other developments that Beyond the Gates will unveil on April 2nd. Lynette makes the situation even more explosive by blackmailing Haley. And Carlton finds himself in trouble again with Nicole as tensions spread into other relationships. Come along with me as we dig deeper into it. There may be no formal trial, no verdict delivered before a crowd, yet the war inside Bill's law firm has already become suffocating enough to crush pride, careers, and even the relationships that once seemed the strongest. Tomas walks into work each day with the feeling that he is trapped inside a maze built out of fake smiles, cold memos, and loaded glances. The bitterest part is not that he has to compete with other lawyers to prove himself, but that his most dangerous opponent is Haley, a woman wearing the polished disguise of a graceful young wife. A proper and efficient legal assistant, while beneath the makeup lies a ruthless survival instinct and a sharp intelligence capable of pushing anyone who dares come near her secrets into the abyss. Tomas sensed that something was wrong from very early on, from the way Haley always seemed to appear at the exact moment Lynette was being questioned. From the way details that looked scattered somehow fit together too perfectly, and from the professional instinct telling him that a dark bond existed between these two women. Something that could not be explained away as mere familiarity. When Cott also began to notice the suspicious silences, the deliberate evasions, and Haley's excessive reactions every time Lynette's name came up, it stopped being simple speculation. It became a private investigation, quiet but dangerous. And from that moment on, Tomas stepped into a territory where truth was not only measured by career loss, but could also demand the price of honor. What pushes Tomas to the brink is not only workplace pressure, but the way Haley struck before he could tear away her mask. She did not wait to be exposed before reacting. She moved first, creating another story entirely, turning Tomas's efforts to get close to Lynette into supposed evidence of harassment, turning a man searching for the truth into someone suspicious in the eyes of his superiors, and turning herself into the victim. It was a move both vicious and precise, because she understood exactly what Bill would react to, what he would protect, and what he would fear most. A law firm might survive scandals involving money, clients, or shady deals made behind closed doors. But an accusation of sexual harassment from within could destroy the moral foundation Bill had tried to build overnight. Haley aimed directly at that weakness. If she were truly afraid, her reaction should have felt defensive, but this feels entirely different. It feels like a preemptive strike, cold and calculated, as though she does not just want to protect herself, but wants to destroy Tomas's path to survival before he can drag her down with him. The more Tomas thinks about it, the more chilling it becomes. He is no longer facing a woman terrified that her secrets will be revealed, but someone willing to sacrifice anyone in order to keep her power and position. That is why the thought of leaving the firm begins to cling to Tomas as both a humiliating and practical solution. Part of him wants to slam that door shut, cut ties with Bill, with Haley, with the filth that is suffocating his professional life, and start over somewhere else. But another part of him, the most stubborn and the most furious part, cannot bear the thought that leaving in silence would mean accepting defeat. Tomas is not only afraid of losing his job. He is afraid of being marked forever as a man with a moral stain, afraid that his future career will be ruined by a story crafted too skillfully, afraid that if he walks away now, Haley will only gain more power to manipulate everything. It is the most dangerous kind of torment, when a man no longer knows whether he is trying to hold on to the truth or merely feeding the rage of a wounded ego. And in that chaos, Cott becomes the only person who can pull Tomas back toward reason, yet also the one most at risk of being dragged down with him. Cott is not as naive as many people assume. She does not simply listen to Tomas and believe him blindly. She observes, connects the dots, and sees for herself the dark gaps in Haley's story. And the deeper she goes, The more she realizes this is no longer just a murky relationship between Haley and Lynette. There is money involved. There are interests at stake. There are traces of some kind of deal that happened in the shadows. Lynette is living in a luxury hotel on Bill's money, and the amount has grown to the point that it can no longer be called temporary help. Bill's law firm helped her escape fraud charges without charging a fee, as though someone had been orchestrating everything from the start. And the engagement ring she refuses to return feels less like a sentimental keepsake than a sealed piece of evidence. Kot understands enough to know she is getting close to a very dirty truth. But does she know everything? Or has Tomas held part of it back to protect her? Or because even he is not yet ready to believe his own conclusions? That question begins to smolder between them. Their early unity is gradually tested by fear, by secrecy, and by the enormous price either of them may have to pay if one wrong step is taken. While Tomas struggles to hold on to his place, Haley is pulled into another crisis, one even more humiliating, because this time the person holding the knife is not Tomas but Lynette. The cruelest irony of dirty alliances is that they never survive on loyalty, only on the fragile balance of mutual gain. When Lynette realizes that Haley did not marry Bill for love but for money, power, and a ticket into a different social class, every bond between them begins to rot. Lynette is no longer the obedient accomplice. She becomes a venomous snake wrapped around Haley's neck, tightening inch by inch through new demands, through her provocative presence in the luxurious hotel, through the way she keeps the ring as a reminder that the past is still in her hands. Haley may once have believed she was the one in control, but she is now learning the bitter lesson that greedy people only control the game until they meet someone greedier. Haley's panic is no longer simply about Tomas discovering the truth. It is about her entire web of lies collapsing from within. She has to save her marriage to Bill, but what she may really want to save is not love. It is status, money, and control over her own future. Bill, in the middle of all these spirals, stands at the center like a man being betrayed by his own decisions. The fact that he quietly asked Joey to investigate Lynette shows that he no longer fully trusts the surface of things. That is the sign of suspicion, and suspicion in a marriage is always the first step toward a fracture that cannot be repaired. Bill may not yet want to know the whole truth, because wealth and power often teach people to live with versions of the truth that are only comfortable enough to keep going. But the fact that he has started digging already makes one thing clear. He no longer feels safe beside Haley. That feeling only grows stronger as he continues to seek out Donnie. No matter whether they call it updating each other, old habit, post-divorce loyalty, or the remnants of a family bond, the deeper truth remains the same. Bill is going to the place where he feels he has to guard himself the least. He talks to Donnie about his future, about a future no longer tied to having a child with Haley, and that confession is far from harmless. It reveals a painful truth that is hard to deny. Bill has already begun withdrawing his emotions from his current marriage. Perhaps he never loved Haley the way she wanted. Perhaps he once believed he could build a new chapter with her, but now everything has become duty, suspicion, and exhaustion. When a man tells his ex-wife the things he no longer wants with his current wife, that is no longer an ordinary conversation. It is a dangerous intimacy, an emotional bridge being rebuilt while the new marriage is already rotting. Donnie does not need to actively steal Bill back in order to become a threat in Haley's eyes. All it takes is for Bill to go to her too often, too naturally, too sincerely. Haley may be able to endure attacks from Tomas because she can fight back. But Donnie is the kind of rival who unsettles her in a completely different way. Donnie has history with Bill, an understanding Haley cannot buy with money, and an emotional place in his life that cannot easily be erased. If Haley truly senses the growing distance between herself and her husband, she will not only fear losing Bill, she will fear comparison, fear exposure. Fear the day Bill realizes this marriage was built on the wrong foundation from the very beginning. And when a woman like Haley feels threatened, she will not respond with weakness. She will become more dangerous, more relentless, and Donnie may soon become her next target. Elsewhere in Fairmont Crest, Nicole continues to be dragged into endless conflict with Carlton. After the double date with Vanessa, Joey, and the others, the discomfort simmering inside Nicole seems to have found a fresh reason to explode. Maybe it was Carlton's attitude when Joey appeared, a recklessness he could not control, a deeply instinctive reaction that showed he has never really been calm around men like Joey. Or maybe Nicole is angry not only because of his outward behavior, but because deep down she is beginning to see instability in Carlton. A tendency to be controlled by emotion more than he likes to believe. When a woman is repeatedly disappointed by the same kind of mistake, what exhausts her is no longer each separate incident, but the feeling that the man in front of her will never really change. Keel has also irritated Nicole before, and the fact that both men around her keep forcing her into a state of emotional caution puts Nicole into a bitter romantic paradox. She is not only choosing between two men, she is choosing whether she still has enough patience left to believe in anyone at all. Vanessa, on the other hand, does not step back from judgment. She is not ashamed of growing closer to Joey, and she even openly confesses to Deanna about the truth of her marriage to Doug and about her current relationship with Joey. That does not necessarily make Vanessa innocent. The love she names may be real, but it is also fueled by long-term deprivation, by the feeling of being seen, desired, and brought back to life after a marriage that no longer made her feel she existed. Joey, with all his murkiness, danger, and dark reputation, gives Vanessa exactly what many decent men fail to provide: intensity, the feeling of being chosen, and the sense that her life can still blaze. That is why she clings to him, not simply because of love, but because she refuses to return to the old version of herself, the one who was resigned, cold, and forgotten inside her marriage to Doug. But the problem is that relationships built on emotional rebellion often turn into a kind of addiction. Vanessa may believe she is choosing happiness, but it is just as possible that she is choosing a storm simply because she can no longer bear stillness. And it is precisely the chaos of each couple, each personal ambition, each overlapping suspicion that makes the current picture more toxic than ever. Tomas must choose between his career and the truth. But more deeply than that, he must choose between protecting himself and continuing a war that could destroy Cott as well. Haley must preserve the mask of her marriage to Bill while Lynette tightens around her inch by inch with money and secrets. Bill stands between defensive instinct toward his current wife and the trust he cannot fully let go of with Donnie, and with each step he takes, it becomes clearer that his heart was never entirely where he chose to place it. Nicole is worn down by the men around her constantly giving her reasons to doubt, while Vanessa willingly steps deeper into a relationship that everyone else can see is dangerous except her. The most frightening part is that none of them has truly hit bottom yet. The truth about Haley and Lynette is still hanging overhead like a blade that has not yet fallen. Bill still does not know everything happening in the shadows around him. Tomas still does not know whether the man he once tried to stay loyal to will choose justice or his young wife. Cott still does not understand that the closer she stands beside Tomas, the closer she moves toward the danger Haley is fully capable of creating. And Fairmont Crest, where everyone tries to preserve a polished, graceful, respectable image, is becoming the perfect stage for the ugliest instincts of all: greed, jealousy, control, fear, and betrayal. When these people are finally pushed into the corner, what explodes will not only be secrets, but the entire dark side they have tried to hide for far too long. In the end, who will win Bill's trust, Tomas or Haley? Is Lynette blackmailing Haley or preparing to betray her completely? Could Haley be pushed to the brink by Lynette? And will Cott be able to save Tomas or not?